Hi, in this last video on the difference of two squares, we're going to look at when we have a subtraction of two large square numbers like this. Now, we could calculate this just by working out what 78 squared is and what 22 squared is and subtracting them. But it's quite difficult to do 78 squared either without using a calculator or having to do long multiplication. So is there some clever way we could use factorization, algebraic factorization, to make this calculation easier? Now, we previously explored something called the difference of two squares, and that's when we have a subtraction, a difference of two squared things. So a square number or some algebraic expression squared, and the way we then factorize that is to have two brackets multiplied together with a plus in the middle of one of them, a minus in the middle of the other, and then we do the square root of the first thing. So the square root of a squared is just a, which we make as the first thing of each bracket. And the square root of the second thing, the b squared, is just b, so we make that the second term of each bracket. So let's do that with this 78 squared minus 22 squared. And just because they're numbers, it doesn't mean that we can't still use this particular factorization here. So we're going to have two brackets, one with a plus in the middle, one with a minus in the middle. And then we've got a difference of two squares here. So we do the square root of the first term. The square root of 78 squared is just 78. The square root cancels out the squared. So we have 78 as the first term of each bracket. And then what's the square root of the 22 squared? Well, it's just 22. So we put 22 as the second thing of each bracket. And then let's just simplify each of these brackets. What's 78 plus 22? Well, that's 100. And then what about this second bracket? It's 78 minus 22. What is that? Well, it's 56. And then remember, when these two brackets are next to each other, it means they're being multiplied together. So we're multiplying these two numbers together. Now, this is a much easier calculation to do than the original one. 100 times 56 is easy because I just need to put two zeros on the end of the 56 to give 5,600, and that's the final answer. And that's quite clever because we never actually worked out what 78 squared was or what 22 squared was. We were able to use the difference of two squares to come up with a much easier calculation to work this out without a calculator or complex working.